Okay, this is part two. Kind of a long video stuff here. So what I'm going to do now is show you some more primary source stuff. These guys are still alive. They're in their 90s, and this is some stuff that they remember about Pearl Harbor. Okay, and then after that, what I'm going to do is show you from the movie Pearl Harbor again an excerpt where Roosevelt gives his speech in front of the Congress, asking for a declaration of war. Okay, we'll be back after that.
The Japanese attack on Hawaii on December 7th, 1941, sparked the defiant battle cry, "Remember Pearl Harbor." And even 75 years later, the dwindling ranks of those who watched the attack happen remember it still. Our cover story is reported by Lee Cowan.
Hawaii's Pearl Harbor. It was just a place before it became a memorial, a tropically tranquil place that was Dorinda Nicholson's childhood home.
This was my favorite part of the neighborhood.
Dorinda was just 6 years old that Sunday in 1941. Born in Hawaii, her family was civilian and lived near the dock for the famous Pan Am Clippers. The idea of war coming to this remote Pacific outpost seemed to most here about as likely as a white Hawaiian Christmas. But at 7:55 a.m. on December 7th, a storm did indeed come.
They were coming right over the house.
And when you came outside and you looked up, they were right there.
Right overhead. Canopies pushed back, and could see the pilots' faces. They were that close.
What did you think when you saw that?
Oh, I just leaned closer to my dad and hugged him a little closer.
6 Japanese aircraft carriers had sailed to within 300 miles of the Hawaiian Islands, loaded with more than 350 planes that were on Oahu like a swarm of angry mosquitoes. Dorinda's family fled to the relative safety of the island's sugarcane fields. But Navy seaman Dick Giraco, now 95, had nowhere to go.
200-300 yards over there is where I was.
He had joined the Navy at age 19 and was part of the crew that manned the PBY Catalina flying boats out of the Naval Air Station at Ford Island. How close were the bombs falling to your hangar?
Within 100 yards.
He hightailed it to a nearby ditch for cover.
And when I first went in it, I'm laying on the bottom of it. And another fella come jumping in right on top of me, laid on top of me. And he was saying Hail Marys as fast as he could say them. And then I said, well, that takes care of that part. I don't have to do that.
But then a Japanese pilot spotted him.
This fella says, well, you might as well turn over and watch this. Dumb me, I turn over. I said, looking up, I'm looking up at a dive bomber coming down.
Straight at you?
Oh, yeah. Banked out over the airfield and looked right down in the ditch. And I could look him right in the eye.
Hangar 79, just one down from where Dick was, still bears the scars. The bullet holes in its bright blue window panes remain, reminders of the serenity shattered on a quiet Sunday morning. Were you mad? Were you angry? Confused?
I don't really recall whether I was angry or not. A lot of people asked me if I was scared, and I'm sure I was. If I wasn't, something wrong with me.
Scores of planes were bruised and battered.
At the Army Air Corps' Hickam Airfield nearby, the Japanese assault continued. Parked wingtip to wingtip, nearly every American warbird was incinerated before ever taking flight. But Japan's real target was Battleship Row.
The Utah is shown capsized and partially sunk.
Within minutes, the California was sinking, and the Oklahoma had also capsized, trapping hundreds in her hull.
The whole side of Battleship Row, clear down to the Arizona, is covered with flames. The people in the water, swimming, trying to get out. It was a terrible, terrible scene.
95-year-old Delton Wally Walling was perched high in a patrol tower that day and saw it all unfold.
Can you imagine how I'm feeling now when I'm watching my great Navy stuffed down my throat? I'm devastated, mad.
And it got worse. Not far away, the Shaw, a destroyer, exploded with such ferocity it sent pieces flying a half-mile away, a moment captured in this iconic photograph.
That almost knocked us off in the tower.
But it was the Arizona that got the worst of it. Hit by armor-piercing bombs, it too exploded, killing 1,177, the single largest loss of life in American naval history. Her hull is still in the mud where she sank. The Arizona remains the final resting place for most of her crew, including 23 sets of brothers, family dying shoulder to shoulder in a war that hadn't even been declared.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. It is obvious that planning the attack began many weeks ago. During the intervening time, the Japanese government has deliberately sought to deceive the United States by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American military forces. I regret to tell you that over 3,000 American lives have been lost. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. Because of this unprovoked, dastardly attack by Japan, I ask that the Congress declare a state of war.
Okay, so this is your assignment, and it's in the form of a Google Classroom question. All right, so here it is. You live in Cleveland, Ohio, thousands of miles away from Pearl Harbor. You know Europe is engaged in World War II, but that the United States is not directly involved in war. You did not support American entrance into the war in Europe, but are reconsidering since the attack on December 7th, 1941. Now, there is a possibility that some close relatives and friends will enlist in the Navy and be sent abroad. Okay, here are your questions, and just respond to all these and submit it, okay? Kind of put it into a paragraph. First one, your neighbor's son is stationed at Pearl Harbor. How do you feel after learning the news about the attack? Number two, what is your reaction after listening to Roosevelt's address to the Union? To the nation. Number three, has your opinion of the Japanese changed since the attack? Number four, what do you plan to do after hearing the speech? And then number five, how might U.S. involvement in a war affect your hometown? Okay, Cleveland, Ohio. All right, so you're sort of doing a role play here, but just pretend that this is news to you and go through that. It's due on Friday. Follow along tomorrow. I'm going to have some more stuff posted, but not homework. So you had 2 assignments this week, Mondays and today's. See you guys later. All right, bye.